You may remember a few videos back I was having problems with things in my dice sinking to the bottom, but then I found the solution. The holy grail, glue. Well, I thought it was the holy grail, but I did have some problems with it. Turns out this is not a problem that just I suffer with. People have been posting about this for years, not just for dice, but any resin makers, and there's even one devilishly handsome individual who had this problem a couple years ago when making some barred dice. That was 5 years ago? Time is a son of a bitch. Well, it turns out while I was trying to think of a solution for my inclusions falling in my resin, turns out I was eating this stuff when I was a kid. Elmer's school glue will do exactly what you need it to do. Don't eat glue, by the way. Doesn't really matter which type of school glue that you use, they will dry clear no matter what, but I'm going to use this clear one for our experimentation purposes. I'm also going to use some homemade dice molds I made out of PVC, but if you don't have homemade, like Martha Stewart said, store-bought is fine. We will be using resin to make the dice. We'll add the glue in a bit. Don't at me for clickbait, it does happen. And ours is mixed up by volume. Check your resin. Some people's is by weight, some people's is by volume. If you're having trouble mixing your resin and getting gooey dice, that's probably why you didn't know if it was by weight or by volume. And that definitely matters. Now that we've got it all mixed up, we mix it for about 5 minutes until our arms are sore. I decided I was going to add some iridescent glitter to mine because I like it when resin is shiny and has sparkles. Just a few drops will do you. It goes quite a long way here. I stir until my new mixture is, well, mixed, and then it's time to add the glue. Nothing online tells me exactly how much I should be using of this for the ratio of glue to resin, so we're just going to experiment. They say a few drops. I don't know if that means for 10 milliliters of resin or how much I'm using. So we're going to add 4 drops. As I zoom in, it's kind of cool. You can see it sitting on the surface of the resin here. And I did not think that this was going to work. It did not seem like enough, but you can hear my live reaction.
Whoa. Look at how thick that is immediately. It's like working with slime. Oh, okay. Yuck, first of all. Okay, we might need to work a little quicker. Sorry for the upcoming camera work.
Yeah, I don't really know why I thought glue would speed up the cure time, but it does not at all. I guess when resin gets thicker, I think it's about to finish curing, and so I felt like I had to really rush this part, so sorry if some of this is a little rushed. I pour out some of the resin into a different cup and then add some of this really cool thin purple foil stuff. I had an idea for a purple core with a silver outside set of dice, and I thought, hey, this is going to work finally because I have glue to help keep this purple core in place. Otherwise, it just doesn't work whenever I try and do this. I decided to add just a little bit of alcohol ink, some purple alcohol ink to this purple mixture because it just makes it look better. And wow, I was really impressed with how that was looking, and it was time to suck it up with some pipettes. Also, they're called pipettes. If you call them pipettes, you're a psychopath.
What? That's so weird. It flows better than normal resin up these things. But it's so thick and goopy. I don't understand.
Yeah, I really don't understand either, past me. Maybe the glue has less friction to it, but that seems to be at odds with glue, so I have no idea. If anybody has any idea why this flows better than normal resin does into pipettes, please let me know. I'm thoroughly stumped on that. So I go ahead and add the resin into my dice molds. I have a full set of RPG dice plus an extra giant D20 and a D2, which is just a coin here that's got my logo on it. I take the pipettes and push them just into the very center of the molds. You can see it really clearly here when I do it on my D2, but I'll show you again here on the D6. My goal is to inject the purple stuff right in the very center and make an almost sphere or orb of that. I don't try and push it down to the bottom. I don't try and pull it up to the top as I come out. I just want a little ball, and it looks perfect on the D6 as I take the pipette out. So I was pretty happy, but you'll see with the footage sped up here, pay attention to like the molds on the right because something is happening that I am not aware of in real time. And I should have noticed it here as I was popping surface bubbles with the lighter. All of the purple stuff has risen to the top. Why is that happening? Why it do that, you might be asking? Well, I was asking myself the same questions when it came out, but let's go through that story organically because there is a lot to learn. So I put it in my pressure pot. I leave it in at 30 psi for about 24 hours until I can take it out. And yippee-ki-yay, it still doesn't work. And this time it floated instead of sunk. I have no idea what's going on. At least I don't see any voids. Which transitions us into this week's sponsor, Void Sea. Shut up. What is Void Sea, oh great bonator? You might be asking yourself. Well, it's the upcoming Kickstarter collaboration between Titanforge, Loot Tavern, and Archvillain Games. It is a grimdark, eldritch, naval-themed expansion for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, 2014 or 2024. It's got its own book. It's got a bunch of minis coming from it. It's got its own ship. And did I mention that ship is a mimic ship? I don't even know what they want me to do. It kind of sells itself. For real though, I only got this sponsorship because I reached out to them because I was already excited about this before they even asked me to do it. It's fantastic. There's going to be a 350-page book for it, a ton of magic items, subclasses for various classes, and I like all three of these companies individually, and they all make amazing things. I mean, look at these models. They're absolutely redonkulous. I would buy it just for the models, but there's so much more involved. Like, they're reinventing naval combat from the ground up, which I think is amazing because that was one of 5e's weak points. And they also gave me a bunch of free stuff that they've already made to give away to all of you. So I've got a link to that in the description down below. To be honest, they told me to give you guys the thing that I think you'll like the most, but I like them all, so my link has all of them for you. So go ahead and check out the Void Sea Kickstarter. It launches at the end of the month, so you do not want to miss that. I will put my link in the description down below. Thanks again to Void Sea for sponsoring this video. Okay, so I'm not one to let this just beat me. I think I can figure this out, how I can get these purple dice to work. Purple with silver shell, clear stuff on the outside. So I try again. And then I try again, because that one didn't work out. All right, let's try for another time. Let's try one more time. All right, this is the 5th time that I have tried to make these dice, trying to figure out what is going on here. Different ratios of glue, and I am frustrated. It is not working, but I think I've figured out a consistent pattern. Now that I am doing this, they always float to the top. The dice are perfectly hard and serviceable. They cure with no issues whatsoever. The glue does not seem to inhibit the curing or mess with the hardness of the dice whatsoever. What I think is happening, I think is easiest to demonstrate here in this cup. I will squirt resin all the way down to the very bottom, and in real time you can see it starting to float up towards the top. So that's a problem. It's floating very quickly. So as this cures, I'll be able to show you, just like with all of the other dice, even though I squirted this one guaranteed all the way directly down to the bottom, I had a clear cup making sure I was doing that, it floated up to the top before I could do anything. So I think what is happening here is, as I'm mixing up resin, I mix in X amount of bubbles. Then I pour some out into another cup and I start mixing in the purple stuff, adding even more bubbles. So the second mixture, or the one on the right in this demonstration, has essentially 2x the amount of bubbles, therefore is much lighter and floats on top of the other one. That's my best guess. Because the glue has made it thicker, it almost acts like two separate objects rather than liquids that can mix together, or at least the way I'm doing it, where I'm trying to actually keep them separate. So I'm going to swap gears here and try something different. I've been wanting to use this embossing powder for a long time now, and the problem with it is it sinks to the bottom. So I said, let's try some glue dice made with that. I just want to make sure that this glue dice works before I show all of you. So I'm going to make some cool galaxy dice with a powder that I have previously never been able to use because it's too heavy and just sinks to the bottom. And I want to show that this glue dice stuff does actually work like it's intended to, without me trying to do something crazy like mix 2 of them at a time. So I've been filling my molds with just a single fingerprint of mica powder so I can have some cool gold galaxy. If you want to do this, by the way, use silver. That looks better for galaxy stuff. I just like gold. I mix up some more resin, and you can see how freely it flows here. This is how resin should flow. Remember this because we'll look at it in a minute. And take a look at this embossing powder. It is sick. It's super cool, but it's also very thick, and the pigment is not thin like mica powders, or small, I guess is the proper term. It tries to almost sink down in the resin just by placing it on top. So as I mix it in, one, I think it looks amazing, but it's also quite thin. That's another problem with this, is you have to use so much of it to be able to get a nice thick amount to where it doesn't just become transparent. You could never do that before. It would just always sink to the bottom of your resin. But now we're going to put some glue in it, and that will hopefully solve all of our problems, baby. As I just put 3 drops of glue, 3 seems to be the right amount for anywhere between 10 to 50 milliliters from my testing, at least. You don't need any more than that. You don't need any less. But as you mix it up, yeah, it starts to get almost the consistency of slime. It's a little bit thinner than that. I wouldn't add much more glue, and you can remember how thick this is compared to the one that I showed you before. It definitely makes a massive difference in the thickness of the resin, and hopefully will keep all of these tiny little particles in place without letting them sink to the bottom. Now I've got my molds with my little gold fingerprints in them, which will hopefully act like little clouds or nebulas within a galaxy. This powder looks so good, but man, I am worried about the corners still being a little transparent, but it's definitely way better than it ever was before. I pop any surface bubbles with a lighter so that when I put these lids on, I don't get any gaps or voids in my dice, and hopefully we'll actually have some serviceable dice. After leaving it for 24 hours in the pressure pot, I am ecstatic. finally, some glue dice that look freaking good. I have been trying so hard for so long to get something to come out, and all of the embossing powder stays exactly where it's supposed to. This looks amazing. I am hype. But here's the thing. I made it sound super difficult. These dice were easy to make. If I had tried to make these from the very beginning, man, I would have been done so fast. I wanted to do a set that was easy because I was trying so hard to make something work that just wouldn't work with the technique that I was trying to do. I was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. You can see the thing I was trying to do on the right, difficult, not working at all. The thing I'm just doing on the left, I just kind of poured that in the cup and man, it looks great. So don't be afraid of using glue for your dice. If you have inserts and want them to be hanging where they're supposed to and stay put, as long as you're just using one mixture, you'll be fine. My embossing powder was still a little bit thin, so I could see through it on the D4, and my D2 didn't come out, but oh well, that's not part of the main set. That's just bonus. But now we get to move on to sanding the dice. Sanding is super easy, or at least the way I do it. I get out a glass pane so that I can sand as smooth as humanly possible, and then I use Zona papers, which are essentially extremely high grit sandpapers going up into the tens of thousands of grit. I like to wet sand so I don't get any mica powder or any resin in the air. You definitely should too, and wear masks and all of the good safety tips. But I'm going to go through the grit sanding down as best I can, going on just the surfaces that are marred, so usually just the low numbers there and the surfaces connecting to them. And then I'm going to paint up all of the numbers with these three colors. I like all of them, but I'm only using certain ones on certain faces, and I'll show you what I'm doing in just a minute. But for now, you can see the sanding does have an issue on some of the faces because the mica powder that I touched, the gold mica powder on the outside of the molds, it is as thin as the mica powder because it's just resin that's kind of holding it in place. So whenever you sand a face there, you'll get these weird areas where there's black where there used to be gold, and some people don't like that look. Never really bothers me. That's just kind of a unfortunate side effect of doing it the way that I'm doing, but I happen to like it, so it's fine by me. I go ahead and paint the numbers in with this cool teal color, which I think looks great with black and gold, very galaxy, and I am pretty happy with that color combination, so it works for me. I'm going to pour out one of my new favorite golds from Vallejo and pour it into my logo, which is a dice goblin eating a bunch of gold bars because I love gold, so hey, what's not to love there? And then I'm going to try not to curse as my goblin green pours all over my painting table. Editing out all of the bad words I said, I can go ahead and paint up the goblin part of my logo, and after the paint dries, I think it's looking good, but we have a lot of excess paint from wiping it away with my finger. So I'm going to take a microfiber cloth and dip it in a little bit of isopropyl alcohol, and that gets all of the excess paint up with no problem. You can wipe it just over any surface, and it comes up really easily, especially if you do it within a day or two of the paint drying. So I will say, before you comment it, yes, my paint looks very bubbly. No, I did not notice it until editing, which means it's not going to bother me, because if I can't see it in person, who really cares? But if it bothers you, if you have bubbles when you're doing paints and stuff like that, and you can see it, just do another layer of paint, and it will disappear, and you will not see it at all. Now let's hear how they sound. The main thing I was worried about was, does the glue make them sound weird or even cooler? But no, it doesn't really change anything at all. And I was checking to see which of these should be my advantage die, and it's definitely the smaller one, because the big one rolled a nat 1 and the small one rolled a nat 20. So hey, I know which one I'm going to be using more consistently. I really like how these turned out. I think that they turned out great. They were a definitely needed consolation prize after trying to make the other thing work for so long. And I know there's ways you can take inserts and fill them in exactly how you want to, but I thought for sure I found a super cool way to do it with glue, but I just can't seem to come up with the solution. If you have an idea for what I should be doing with the glue to try and keep things in place and make that cool kind of purple in the middle, silver on the outside, or clear with silver sparkles, let me know, because I really want to make that idea work. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if there's any cool dice looks I can go for with this glue suspension technique to keep things in place. Like the video if you like it, dislike it if you dislike it. I want to hear that too. Either way, I hope that you have a fantastic day.